Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about some spring book recommendations. I feel like this is the hardest category for me to recommend books in because not only is spring my least favorite season, like don't get me wrong, I love the feeling of like that first semi-temperate breeze that you get, but spring also means an end to my favorite season, so I kind of just hate it a little bit. But I have a stack here that I think, oh my gosh, all of these are just so good. I do have a video like this from last year, so I'll link it up above, but I'm really excited to show you these, so let's just get started. Spring is always the season where I want to read the most poetry. I have no idea why, like I just equate poetry or like poetry collections with the springtime. I think that's because, I don't know. As Rilke says, the earth in springtime is like a child who remembers poems, which is just so lovely. I'm gonna recommend The Broken Wings by Khalil Gibran. This is fantastic. I think I did read this in the spring the first time, but this is just such a poetic novel. His lyrics, his lines, what he does in here, like I'm just gonna totally read you excerpts from each of these. There are currently so many birds on my balcony because I definitely poured out my expensive pack of pumpkin seeds onto the balcony for them. So if you can hear them singing, it's because they're eating very bougie pumpkin seeds out there. This at its heart is a tragic love story, but it is just so gorgeous. This is set in Lebanon. We're following a couple, they fall in love, but the woman Selma is destined to marry someone else. It just gives me so much imagery of spring returning to a desolate world. In the spring I shall walk side by side with love among violets and jasmines and drink the remaining drops of winter in the lily cups. Thus the appearance of things changes according to the emotions, and thus we see magic and beauty in them, while the magic and beauty are really in ourselves. The rustling of the branches whose roots suck the body's elements do not tell the mysteries of the grave, but the agonized sighs of my heart announce to the living the drama which love, beauty, and death have performed. Or even just the first paragraph of the book talking about someone saying that she led me into the garden of high affection where days pass like dreams and nights like weddings. This book is 1000% probably the most lofty book I've ever read, but it is truly beautiful, and there's so, oh my god, this book is just glorious. It's also very upsetting, very sad. It was so rewarding as well to see that both characters in this book, both lovers, like they speak, both of them speak. The woman isn't silenced. She has so much to say. Her lines are probably the most powerful in this book, and I just really freaking adore this, so highly recommend. We're gonna switch to something completely different, and that is a manga, and it is Hunter x Hunter. This is volume 1, and the story and art is by Yoshihiro Tagashi. Thank you so much, Emma, for sending me this one. I don't think I'd ever heard of Hunter x Hunter until she sent it to me, so thank you. I freaking love this. This book to me just screamed spring because I feel like I was really randomly paying attention to the weather in Hunter x Hunter. I think it's fabulous as well for the season because it starts on a small island called Whale Island, and we are living in a world which abounds with strange, fantastic creatures known as beasts. The highest position you can achieve in this world is to become a hunter, which takes so much training. You have to pass these really challenging, difficult tests, and we're following this young boy named Gon. His father was a hunter. He's never known his father, so he dreams of becoming a hunter. I want to say deep down probably because he wants to meet his father, but we don't know that. I don't know, it was just such a fun adventure, but there was something that I just enjoyed so much about this book. You follow him as he takes the test to become a hunter, and I'm not usually one who enjoys tournaments or tests or stuff like that in books where there's just like a series of challenges that our hero has to complete, but Hunter x Hunter, I don't know why, I was hooked. I wished it would never end. I thought it was done so creatively, so well crafted, so well put together. You do follow a couple other characters, a ton of other characters honestly, but they kind of form a little clan with each other, and I just really loved it. I thought it worked out so well. If you've read Hunter x Hunter, like what is it? Why do I just love it so much? There is something I totally cannot describe in here, but I just really loved it. You follow so many different like landscapes and ecosystems as well, and you get to know a whole bunch of the magical creatures in this world. I just thought it was really well done. I did start watching the anime. I only watched episode 1 so far. I think I might actually want to read this manga rather than watch the anime, but we shall see. I highly recommend. It was just fun. It was just the most fun thing ever, and it was just a wild ride, so really recommend. This next book was just like wish fulfillment for me, and that is The Blood Spell by CJ Redwine. It literally is cottage core. The core of this book is a girl living in a cottage. I listened to the audiobook of this book last summer. I found it on Libby as well. At that point, I was living in the apartment of nightmares from which I've now clearly escaped. But just listening to this book at a point where the apartment was literally like crumbling, falling apart around me, like it really just, like I felt like I was in this world. It's the kind of book that makes you want to pick up a broom and like just sweep for 3 hours and listen to the story. It is fantastic. So The Blood Spell is a retelling of Cinderella, and we're set in this world where there's kind of like, not necessarily witches, but dark fae, which are actually very horrifying the way that they're described in this book. And we follow Blue, who is our Cinderella character. She lives with her father. She's a freaking sweetheart, but not a sweetheart in the way that is like the annoying young adult main character trope. And she and her father run basically like an apothecary. They create like potions, kind of, because Blue has a way with plants. She can make them grow really well. She can do stuff to them. It was just so fun because she has this like tiny shard of magic that she's kind of trying to hide from people, because the town where they live is very prejudiced against the fae. I keep forgetting if they're actually called fae in here, because there's currently like a blood fae. I totally forget what it's called, but it's like this very creepy, scary creature who like terrorizes the town and eats the children. And in fact, children have been going missing in this town. Her and her father also supply the palace and like the crown prince and his family and the queen and the princess with stuff that they need. And so Blue and the crown prince Kellen have always had like a relationship. They've been huge rivals in their childhood, but this is also kind of like a friends to lovers, I want to say, romance. And it was just so sweet. Like, not only did it have a great plot, I thought the writing was honestly great. I thought the pacing was well done. I thought the characters were well done, but more than that, like, oh god, I always say this about fantasy, but it really just delivered on those small moments that you just want to self-insert into so badly, and that just make the world so much more rich and so much more fantastical, and so much more appealing, because like we would have so many scenes of her working in the garden, of her actually making her little tinctures and potions. It just touched my little heart, who as a child I would definitely spend hours and hours outside with like you know, those toboggans that are the circle, oh god, what are they called? They're just like a dish. I would take one of those and use it as a big like bowl or mixing pot, and then I put a whole bunch of snow in it and pine needles, stir it all up, and then I did probably consume a lot of that, which was not super good. This book as well is set in like the world of Ravenspire, which is CJ Redwine's like fairy tale retelling cinematic universe. I have read another one set in the Ravenspire world, which was The Wish Granter, which is her rendition of Rumpelstiltskin. I really did not like that one, actually. I thought that one was pretty poorly done, actually. I'm not sure if that was like an earlier one for her, but I feel like she's really grown, because I feel like this must have come after The Wish Granter, but there's like a bunch of them, I think. So I'll definitely be picking up more, because I just love this. All right, this next book is set over, I think it's spring, one spring day, and it is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This was the first book I read in 2021. I do have to say I didn't really thoroughly enjoy my experience reading it, but there is no way that I cannot concede to you how fantastic this book is. Although it's not really my style, it's very much stream of consciousness. Like I said, we're just roaming through the mind of Mrs. Dalloway. It is such a wonderful psychological exploration, and we do dive into the minds of a couple other characters in here who she's connecting with. It is also very much the like her going throughout her day, like going to the flower shop, planning a party, getting her dress fitted, but it also has all these like very serious, minute conversations that are so important. And the writing in here as well, like describing the park or describing the ducks. And I really love the way like it winds up, right? Because we have her going out and then she remembers something or sees something, and then all of a sudden it spirals down to like this very condensed, almost philosophical inquiry into something. And it just, oh my god, the writing in here is honestly beautiful, both in terms of just the everydayness of life, but also, I don't know, this book felt like spring cleaning the mind to me, if that makes sense. Through all ages, when the pavement was grass, when it was swamp, through the age of tusk and mammoth, through the age of silent sunrise, the battered woman stood singing of love, love which has lasted 1,000,000 years, love which prevails, and millions of years ago her lover, who had been dead these centuries, had walked, she crooned, with her in May. But in the course of ages, long as summer days, and flaming, she remembered with nothing but red asters he had gone. Death's enormous sickle had swept those tremendous hills, and when at last she laid her hoary and immensely aged head on the earth, now become a mere cinder of ice, she implored the gods to lay by her side a bunch of purple heather. There on her high burial place, which the last rays of the last sun caressed, for then the pageant of the universe would be over. I absolutely have to put Miyazaki on this list. I watched my first Miyazaki film probably exactly a year ago now. I want to say maybe it was May. Yeah, I think maybe it was May. And it was also the first film that I had watched to completion, not all at once. I had to watch, it was Howl's Moving Castle, which is just so special to me, and I had to watch it in like 10 to 15 minute increments because it was still a very, very difficult time with the concussion, and like I couldn't withstand that kind of media for any length of time, but eventually I did, and then I moved on from Howl's Moving Castle to Spirited Away, to Princess Mononoke, and it was just like, not only do I associate those films so much with spring, but it was a huge symbol of healing in my own life, and it was something that I just adored so much because I was choosing to spend like my time and energy or something that would eventually cause me pain and sickness, unfortunately, on watching those films because they were so good, because I wanted to get through them. And as well, like watching them, it has still been like nothing else I've ever experienced. There's something so special in the Studio Ghibli universe, which I'm sure obviously this is not a new thought at all. It was really such a magical experience and like just revitalized me. I feel like it felt like it had cracked something in me, and all of a sudden I was going out and like spring was coming into bloom, and I was just seeing so much magic, which had kind of translated from those films into real life. So I'm gonna recommend the novel of my neighbor Totoro, because this was just so special as well. This is the only book form I have. I'm not really sure if the other ones are novels. I don't think so. I think Totoro might be the only one. But this one is fantastic. It is definitely a children's book about two sisters who live in the countryside in Japan. Their mother is in a hospital. Their father, is he an archaeology teacher? But they encounter the forest spirit Totoro, and he kind of, I don't know, it was just so special. I definitely regarded Totoro as like the missing mother figure in their lives a little bit, which I think kind of made sense, at least in the film. This edition as well does come with illustrations, which are by Miyazaki, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the art by Miyazaki is just so special. There's so much about nature, and like, oh my god, this is just the perfect springtime and also a summer book, but just highly, highly recommend. It is so, like, just such an affectionate little book, and I really loved it, and it just gave me so much. So yeah. This next book is the only book on here I haven't read, or at least watched the movie, because I haven't actually read the rendition of Totoro. But I've heard such good things about this, and this is The Murmur of Bees by Sofia Segovia. First of all, this cover is glorious. So this one is set in a Mexican town where a baby is born, and he eventually, well no, it happens when he's young too, it happens when he's a baby, but it does still follow him around when he grows up. Essentially, he has this cluster of bees. What is a group of bees called? Oh, swarm. A swarm of bees that follow him around and kind of protect him. But he can also see visions, I think, of what is to come. And eventually, like, he's taken in by landowners, so I think he might live on a farm. It just sounds like the perfect thing, and I'm so excited. I've heard this book is fantastic, and this was also a gift from one of you guys, so thank you so much. But I just wanted to put this on here because I think it's one I would love to get to this spring, so yes. Okay, and finally, the perfect spring classic, in my opinion, one of them at least, is Emma by Jane Austen. I don't know, especially the movie. If you've seen the movie, I haven't. I've seen the trailer. The trailer was enough to convince me. It was like spring, pink, decadent, green grass, blue sky, saturation everywhere. I read Emma a few years ago. I didn't love it as much. I feel like I would like it so much more now. But I just think this is perfect because it's such like a little romantic comedy. I think it's set in the spring. Definitely a lot of this is set in the spring, if I'm remembering that correctly, because I know that they have picnics, and it's just like such a wild romp of like matchmaking gone wrong. Very funny, and I feel like if you just finished binging Bridgerton, which just came out in the spring, maybe this is something you want to pick up next. So that is Emma, and those are my recommendations. So oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna go watch these birds because they're definitely trying to come into my house. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got some good recommendations. I think now I can finally get back to my regular upload schedule because I wrote an exam Thursday night, so I'm really happy to be back filming more, and my exams are almost over. I just have one more left. So yeah, I hope you're doing really well. If you have any recommendations, please let me know, and I will speak to you very, very soon. So ciao.